Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to our latest edition of our What Caught My Eye podcast, or WCME. As a reminder, you can follow us on our social media, Instagram and X at WCME_sports. You can also go to our Facebook page, and you can always listen or watch us on Spotify or YouTube. Welcome back. I am your host, the coach, Nick Vesci. I'm joined, as always, by the boy, Stephen Vesci, and the man, Stephen Comlo. Boys, how we doing?
Salutations.
Oh, very good, very
Doing
good. I
good.
like it. We're growing our vocabulary. Love it already. Let's go ahead and get right into our top catch of what caught our eye this week. And we turn to the world of golf again. You know, not just because we're golf fans, but I thought what we saw over the weekend warranted this. And we're going to start off first with the women's game and Nelly Korda. So if you didn't know, over the weekend, the women had their first major of the season, the Chevron Championship. Played at the Woodlands, Texas, I think at the Jack Nicklaus signature course. And Nelly Korda, who's working on a straight-up heater right now, she had won 4 straight events coming into this tournament, was able to capture the first major of the year and make it 5 straight events. So just to kind of go back from what we talked about last week with Scottie Scheffler, he had ripped off, I think, 3 of 4. So she's even working on a better heater, but she captured her first championship. Very Scottie-like fashion, too, where the final round, you know, she was behind by a stroke, came back from that, and halfway through she was up by 5, and everyone looked dead in the water except for her. She was surging, everyone else was falling. So it's very amazing to see 2 athletes in the same sport do what they're doing at an unprecedented level at the same time. It's pretty remarkable. This was Nelly's second major. I believe her other one was the 21 Women's PGA Championship. So it's her second major. She, with her 5th straight win, because now this is 5 in a row for her, she matched Annika Sorenstam from 04-05. Hers, you know, did a little wraparound straight there for you.
Love
and
Annika.
Nancy Lopez in 1978, the only ones to do it. All right, so it's pretty remarkable. And again, she was behind after each round. So this wasn't a wire-to-wire win. Everyone, you know, crawled away. She was up there, and essentially in the final round, everyone crumbled around her. She had that kind of Tiger effect that you see where she's up on the leaderboard, and it's unknown. Here we go again. And she wound up with I believe a 2-shot victory, shot minus 13 at the end. Amazingly, at the end, she was surging. I don't know if you saw on 17, she almost aced it. Like, literally, the ball went right over the hole.
Saw it.
You know,
Incredible shot.
Popped the pin a little bit, and then birdied 18. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it really wasn't that close. So it's kind of remarkable for that. A couple other news and notes from that tournament. Play was suspended in the 3rd round, so they had to make that up on Sunday, play the rest of the 3rd and all of the 4th. During that 3rd round, Brooke Henderson from Canada, she was on her own heater. She was minus 8 for that round going into that weather delay. And I don't know if that may have had an effect, kind of stunted her momentum when that delay happened, because she, you know, after that they picked back up, she was not the same. She was, you know, basically finished even, I think, for the rest of her holes there for the tournament to finish in a tie for 3rd. But, you know, pretty amazing. Korda's win, again, by 2 shots over Sweden's Maya Stark. Brooke Henderson, again, tied for 3rd. She was tied for 3rd with Lauren Coughlin from
Virginia.
From
Maybe?
Virginia. Lauren
All right.
Coughlin
All right,
from
here we
Virginia.
go.
Yeah, she's from Chesapeake. The
She went to
story.
UVA.
Yeah, Lauren Coughlin went to UVA. She's from Chesapeake. This was her best finish in any tournament in her entire career. If she had come solo second, she would have made just about as much money from this one tournament as she had for her entire career combined. So this was a massive win for her, a tie for 3rd. But the cool story about her is her husband was her caddy. But it's not like her husband's been her caddy forever, right? He kind of asked her and been begging her, hey, can I quit my job to caddy for you? And she finally was like, yeah, sure. Go ahead. We'll give it a try. If it doesn't work out, your butt's getting another job. But if it works out, we'll see. And got to think it worked out because she had her best finish again ever in a tournament. Her husband also went to UVA. He was a former lineman on the football team, a center, which I know we are fans of centers.
Yes, sir.
around here.
What was the earnings for that one? Because you get to keep all of it if you
Nelly
have your husband on the
earned.
caddy.
I
I don't
know.
know what Laura won. I know
I know.
Nelly bagged like
So
1.2 mil.
yeah, Nelly got 1.2. Solo's second, I think, was like 666 grand. I think tied for third, they each got over 300 grand or so. But not 100% sure. But I wanted to start off with that. I thought it was remarkable, especially because of how strong she finished that tournament, and especially after we got done the week before talking so much about Scottie Scheffler, to see Nelly Korda again, who's on just as remarkable of a streak going. Now, I will say she's not going to try to make it 6 this coming week. She just withdrew from the LA tournament because, I mean, understandably so. She needed a little time off to kind of gather herself. But pretty remarkable to see that happen. And the other part of the top catch actually does tie us back into Scottie Scheffler. We are not Scottie Scheffler fanboys necessarily. We do like him, but
Just
we're bringing it up
greatness.
because he won again. In the RBC Heritage took place in Hilton Head. He won again for his 4th win in 5 events. Like we talked about last week, his only blemish on there, they didn't win, was a tie for second while he was 1 shot behind, and he missed a birdie that should have forced a playoff. So he could have been on a heater for 5 in a row. A couple, crazy stats for him. He's the first person since Bernhard Langer, whichever you want to call him, of Germany. In 1985, he's the first one since then to win the green jacket and then win the immediate week after that. So it's been that long since someone's done that. He went 68 straight holes without a bogey in this tournament. He, I think, like double bogeyed the 3rd hole on Thursday. Then went all the way until his last hole on Monday, because again, play got suspended Sunday, had to finish on Monday morning. Last hole on Monday where he bogeyed the last hole, he was comfortably ahead, so it didn't matter. But he went that whole stretch without bogeying, which is crazy. He has now gone 40 rounds, par or better. So the last time he shot a round over par was sometime probably in like August, right? Which is just stupid, just unreal. He now has $18.7 million in on-course earnings this year in 10 events, so he's almost making $2 million an event, which is stupid. And the last player to win 4 out of 5 events was, of course, Tiger. Who else? Did it in 2007. And then in 2008, Tiger did in 2007, the end of 2007, the last events in 2007. Started 2008 and ripped off, the first 4 he played in? 3 on the PGA Tour and 1 on the European Tour. So what we're really seeing here, again, is truly unprecedented. From the women's game, from the men's game, we've never really seen this type of dominance. There's a couple names that we mentioned, and I mean, it's like Annika Sorenstam and Tiger Woods. That's who we're comparing them to, who are, they were the greatest golfers of that generation. A lot of people consider them the greatest in their respective leagues ever. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. It's pretty amazing. And I will say one thing to note of what Scotty's doing, not a knock on Tiger, what his accomplishment was, but back when Tiger was doing that, those tournaments at the end of the year really didn't mean that much. All the majors have been played. They didn't have the FedEx Cup playoffs. So a lot of those tournaments, yes, you're probably playing against good guys, but may not have necessarily been the best fields, and especially because when you wrap around and start the year, you don't always have that either. But Scotty's 4 out of 5 are at some of the hardest tournaments. Like we're talking the Players Championship, the Masters, the RBC, which was a designated event, and the Arnold Palmer was the other one. And I think that was also might have been a designated event with an extremely strong field. So he's doing this against the strongest fields when it matters the most, in some of the most prestigious events they have on tour. Again, not to knock on Tiger, but that is stupid. Like that's crazy.
To win the RBC after the Masters, I think is insane. That's one of the coolest things I think of this is that usually that Masters hangover happens,
Yes.
and no one shows up to the RBC if you win the Masters, or you definitely don't perform well.
Well, there was definitely a lot of people that showed up. So I had the same thought. Like, it's insane that Scottie's playing. Good for him, especially like with all the like shroud of mystery about whether or not he was going to finish the Masters with his wife Meredith being extremely pregnant.
She had like a month out. She was fine. She had like a month
Well,
out.
yeah, but the headlines would lead you to believe that she was ready to go.
Hey,
You know what
no,
I mean?
don't. I don't want to hear that. Our boy Luca, he was born 3 weeks, full 3 weeks before his due date. So no, month out. No. You have your bags packed. You are sitting there not sleeping anymore. You're waiting for that to happen. No.
Yeah, but they acted
That's
like
going
it
through
was like that. It was like her due date was that
because they
day.
could. Do I have to go through it again? And
Oh
we're
my
not the
God.
only people.
Here we go.
No,
We're
Here.
digressing. We're digressing.
I
My point
digest.
is,
Thank you.
my point is that this definitely wasn't a slouch of a field. I don't know what was so desirable about like Hilton Head and the RBC Heritage, other than that it's like a designated event.
Well,
But this is you had 15 players shoot 65 and under. There were 10 rounds of 65, 3 rounds of 64, and Scottie Scheffler and I think JT Poston each shot a 63. So I mean, I don't know if it's because like the course maybe plays a little easier, so it's not as hard as Augusta. So it's why take a week off when you can
You
show
just
up?
hop on the Savannah River, just go down and play it.
Well, I mean,
it's right there.
Justin Thomas was up there in the leaderboards too. I think he was like minus 14 or something like that. Like there was, I mean, it was a packed leaderboard, that's for sure. Like it was filled with names that the casual observer would recognize.
Well, so the designated event, that's a new thing that the PGA Tour started last year, and a lot of it's in response to Live. And these are events with higher guaranteed purses. And basically, if you're, I forget what the number is, but if you're ranked in like the top, I think 15 or 20, it may even be just top 10, but you have to play in all of those. Like you can miss one during the year. If you miss two, they fine you like a lot of money. They take away a lot of money from you. I forget what the exact amount is. It's like kind of tailored towards how much money you have, and I think how much money you got from the Player Impact Fund, which they recently instituted as well. But like last year, Rory withdrew from one of these, and it was the second time missing one, and he lost a crap load of money. But Rory has a crap load of money, so it wasn't. It's the doesn't. Yeah, that they're crazy. That's
Scottie Scheffler netted 3.6 mil. Sahith in second place pulled in 2.1.
Yeah.
Wyndham and Cantlay 1.1. I mean, this is an insane payout.
Yeah, and so kind of like what you're saying, Colin. The incentive was the best players better be here for these events. We're going to make these marquee events. And again, it's a huge response to Live because the way Live markets their stuff is that each event's a marquee event since they don't play that many. And they do have such huge payouts. So it's kind of like these are going to be our versions. If you're going to be a casual fan, you're going to watch our Masters, and hey, here's the ones you need to tune into. The one thing I don't like about it is that they rotate which ones are designated each year. So like last year, the WM Phoenix Open, which should be everyone's favorite tournament, especially outside of the majors, that was a designated event. This year it wasn't. So the field in the WM was severely lacking this year. Severely lacking. So many guys didn't do it there because there's a lot of guys like Rory who hates that tournament. He hates the crowd, the rowdiness and all that. So
damn you people, this is golf.
Yeah, not a rock concert. Go back to your shanties. But yeah, so when they took that designation away from it, it deterred a lot of guys. But so this year the RBC was one of them. So they gotta go check and see what the other ones are. But yeah, Conley, you're right. The payouts for these are astronomical.
I'm in the same boat as you. I don't like that it rotates. I mean, I'm sure the country clubs are glad for it.
And the sponsors,
like I'm sure Hilton Head is ecstatic. You know,
RBC.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. You know, like I think probably the hosts are probably the most happy. Then second would probably be the PGA. Third would be the players, and then I guess fourth would be the fans. Because I found this. I mean, I don't know if it was the weather or not. I thought this was a hard event to find on TV. I don't know if it's my like YouTube TV algorithm, which I mean should be geared towards golf after having the Masters on a loop. but I thought this was a pretty difficult tournament to find to watch, and yeah, I mean, and when I would search it on Google, like at work, to see like who's up, what the scoreboard is, usually like when you Google like an event, like if I Google the Masters while the Masters is going on, live leaderboard updates. This time when I'm Googling to see if Scottie's going to take down another tournament, it's just showing me the tee times. And I'm like, well, this can't be right. I know this is going on. I'm in the same time zone as Hilton Head. So I don't know what was going on there, but yeah.
That might have been a Google issue, because every time I went to search stuff for the Chevron, that same issue came up.
Yeah, I had that issue as well.
Mm-hmm. But any other things for golf before we move on?
Sorry, Boy, did you have anything?
I have one little thing about Korda. With
Yeah, go ahead.
I think she needs to get the Caitlin Clark treatment. We got to celebrate what she's doing and get more eyeballs on her, because it's unprecedented, and she's the best player in women's golf. Like that's watch.
Yeah, she's the face.
We went to the X Golf by us this weekend, and I think more TVs had, and again, this could have been a weather issue, but more TVs had that event on than RBC Heritage. So that was pretty
I watched more of that than the RBC.
Yeah. I would have, and I'm on board with you there, Nick. I did too. I was actively looking for it. Stevie, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I love bringing this up, and like, this definitely wasn't an easy tournament for a lot of the field out there. Like Lexi Thompson missed the cut. I think she was like +6, +8, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like we said a couple weeks ago, she's been having some Justin Thomas like struggles the last couple years.
Yeah, she has.
She showed up in the Solheim Cup, but really hasn't done too much outside of that.
Mm-hmm. The cool thing that I loved from it though was did you guys see that Jasmine Koo highlight that came out of it? She was the
amateur,
low
right?
am. Yeah, she was the low am for this tournament. She was getting ready to take her second shot on the par 5 18th, and she admitted afterwards that she was kind of in between yardages and didn't know what club to take. Took her 5-wood, and again, self-admittedly, this isn't me judging her swing or her shot. She admitted to chunking the shot, trying to go over the water, and everyone was writing this shot off like, oh, it's that ball's living at the bottom of the lake forever or whatever. Bounces off the floating Chevron logo in the middle of the pond and rolls up over the green and rests on the fringe on the backside of the green. So she had like a pretty easy, like, I don't want to say easy, but she obviously had a better lie than what everyone thought she was going to have for eagle. So that was pretty cool to see. I mean, the low am with an awesome finish like that, hell yeah, I'm on board.
Always better to be lucky than good, right?
Dude, I know. I mean, you want to talk about again, it's a game of luck. Like you said, Nelly Korda could have had an ace on 17. Jasmine Koo saves a stroke and probably then some.
Yeah.
Using a man-made obstruction in the water. I mean, where's my luck, damn it?
It's the ultimate trick shot. You can pull that off. You can pull anything
off. Did you call glass? Did you call glass?
But yeah, pretty awesome to see. Just to recap, Nelly Korda wins her 5th straight, captures the first major of the year, the Chevron Championship, and Scottie Scheffler wins his 4th out of 5, captures the RBC Heritage the week after winning the Masters. Scottie will be off. He won't play again until the PGA Championship in May because, as we mentioned, his first kid is on the way. So maybe someone else will actually have a chance to win for once. You know. All right, that's gonna go. Yeah, that's gonna go ahead and do us for our first catch, our most eye-catching thing for this week. We're gonna move ourselves right along to our next stuff, and for all of us, we're in agreement. It's got to be the playoffs, the NBA and the NHL playoffs. That kicked off this weekend.
NHL.
And it was, good stuff. Everyone loves playoff ball, playoff hockey. There is nothing like playoff NHL hockey. If you haven't watched any of it, you're doing yourself a disservice.
It's the greatest playoff in sports.
Most coveted.
I love March Madness. March Madness is like my Christmas, and I love it. And it's something I take off the first 2 days of work every year for it. I love it, but there is nothing like the NHL playoffs.
No,
The intensity is through the roof, and it is so much fun to watch.
yeah, playoff hockey getting underway. Couple things for that. Just to kind of recap the matchups for us, if you didn't realize. We're going first matchup out of the East. We have the Rangers, the New York Rangers, my New York Rangers. We're the number one overall seed. They're the President's Trophy winners as the team with the most points in the regular season. They are taking on Kamloo's Caps in the first round. Then you also have the Hurricanes, who are the betting favorite. They were the betting favorite entering the playoffs to win the Stanley Cup. The Hurricanes taking on the Islanders. Then you got the Battle of the Sunshine State, which is the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the last one in the East, the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs trying to get to their first Stanley Cup final since I think 1967, which is insane.
I think that Florida Tampa matchup. Correct me if I'm wrong. People that watch hockey more than me.
Sure.
But I believe that's the best goalie matchup in this first round with Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky.
Bobrovsky.
I think it's the most star power and the most mileage, but I think you could make the argument that Shesterkin and Lindgren is going to be a great matchup. They looking at their stats, they have a very, very similar stat line. Lindgren actually has more shutouts than Shesterkin does. But yeah, I think Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky, I think, is probably the most star-studded and recognizable matchup.
Yeah, the other big one that I would say actually brings us to our West matchups, and that's Winnipeg and Colorado, where you have Hellebuck and Georgiev.
Is Georgiev gonna play anymore? That was rough.
Well, hey,
if they didn't pull him, I don't. I mean, we'll get into it, I'm sure. But if they don't pull him, I don't think they sit him the next game.
Well, so I think their backup for that game was a rookie who's never played a game in the NHL. So Georgiev's butt's going to be out there. But I believe Hellebuck and Georgiev were either 1-2 or 2-3 in the league in wins this year. It helps that you play. Georgiev plays on a team that's got the best offense.
Yeah.
Cale McCarr.
I mean, Cale McCarr, Nathan McKinnon
Mika is
Rantanen.
so much fun.
They don't even have Landeskog out there, their captain.
No,
right, so they're
they're
legit. Also out west, the Dallas Stars, who were the number one seed in the West, most points. I think they finished 1 point behind the Rangers this year. They take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. Then you've got the Vancouver Canucks taking on the Nashville Predators, and Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers taking on the LA Kings. So that wraps up kind of your playoff matchups. Rangers, let's start with them. They're looking to be the first President's Trophy winning team to also win the Stanley Cup since the 2012-2013 Chicago Blackhawks. So we're talking, of course, of I think 11 previous teams that have failed to do so win both trophies. And recently, very recently, those President's Trophy winning teams have not had any success in the playoffs. Not just like, we got to the finals and lost. But I mean, like last year, the Bruins who
divisional.
Losing in the first round, the Bruins, and then before that, you had a couple years before that, you had the Lightning losing the first round. Right, some of these great regular season teams floundering in the playoffs. So it's not that enviable of a position. However, the last time the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in '94, they also won the President's Trophy. So, maybe some symmetry can go on there. They looked really good in their first game against the Caps. I don't know your thoughts about this, Kamala, but the Caps looked like they spent the entire game whining to the refs. Like a call didn't go their way, and they'd lose their mind. And Ray Ferraro, the announcer, and the rules analyst would sit there and go, I don't know what they're complaining about. It's not a penalty. Move on. And it just looked like their focus wasn't there. And you can't play the Rangers in Madison Square Garden and not have your focus be on, let's beat them. The focus was on, we're getting jobs and this and this. And that's not how you win playoff hockey. So I don't know if you noticed that, Kamlo.
My turn?
Yeah.
My turn? Okay. I don't think they were the only ones. There were multiple times where you saw Zibanejad throw his hands up. But the refs started out by setting the precedent that they were going to call a very, very tight game. They got used to blowing their whistles very early. What did we have? 4 penalties in the first period. That's ridiculous. And even like, I was watching on the Monumental Sports Network, so even like Alan May and Alexa Landestoy and Joe B and Craig Laughlin all said, swallow your whistles. Let the boys play. Like, there's history here, and like fans want to watch. Like, there was one interference call on Wilson where, yes, it was a penalty, but I don't think you call that in the playoffs. The guy was off the play and didn't really have wasn't going to have an opportunity to make an impact on the play. But the refs for second and third period eased up a lot on how they were calling the game, which I like to see. I did enjoy that. But I mean, the bottom line, I mean, the highlight of the game really for me was Laviolette in the head games he was playing with the Caps, right? Laviolette, for those of you that don't know, was the Capitals head coach for a little bit, very recently. So he knows the Caps team. Their depth chart hasn't changed a whole lot. Obviously, like even the young core that Washington has, Laviolette would be tracking because they come from their farm system in Hershey. And the Caps kind of played right into it, really. I mean, yeah, earlier in the season, Sonny Milano, who's a forward for the Caps, got hurt by Trouba. I think it was. It was either Trouba or Trocheck. I can't remember. But Trouba was in Milano's kitchen all night. And, like, almost like it was like, remember me, like, last time we met, you missed a week or so.
Living rent-free in his head.
Yeah, like, there was some insane stuff like that. And then I think you saw a lot, like, you did see a lot of, like, mental breaks on the Caps side of things. Like, there was that like late hit on was it LaPierre, and Rangers looked like they were going to go on the penalty kill. Pacioretty comes in for the Caps, cross-checks someone after the whistle. He ends up going too, so it's now, instead of what would have been a 5-on-4, the Caps are now skating 4-on-4 with an incredibly fast Rangers team.
Yeah.
That is not the team that you want to be skating with that much open ice with, because the Caps are old and slow. They don't take care of the puck very well, and the Rangers are just fast. And
well, I think you kind of, right there answered what I was kind of saying before. The Caps are one of the oldest teams in the league. They have looked slow, but they have been scrappy. You would think a team with that much veteran leadership, the number of guys that are still there that won the Cup a few years ago, wouldn't have been sitting there complaining, right? It looked like complaining. It looked like some mental lapses that you just can't have in a playoff game. You can't have against the number one team in the league. You can't have it when you're on the road. So I think Spencer Carberry and his boys got a little bit to figure out. Now, the good thing about it is it's one game in a 7-game series. Right? They could have lost that game 10-0, and you're still down.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's one game, right? So I do think that's going to be an intriguing game. I think they said during the telecast over the last decade or so, it's been the most played playoff series in the entire league is Rangers Caps, which is pretty crazy because you ask Caps fans and they would say
the Rangers first.
Yes, it is always first.
We seem to always meet first in the playoffs. It's crazy. I think that, like, just to wrap that game up real quick, I do think that this is going to be a long series. I think the Caps kind of got their bell rung, and I think it's going to be a wake up call. Iorio getting injured off that hit by Lafreniere, where Iorio skates the puck into a vulnerable spot. He's a young guy, doesn't know any better.
Yeah, he had his head down.
Gets laid out, and I'm a Caps fan. I'm a Caps fan through and through, and I'll support him till the day I die. But it was a clean hit.
It was a shoulder to shoulder. You had your head down.
Carberry calling it a borderline hit. You hear people on the radio. And the only person I heard that shared the same opinion as me was Elliot Siegel on Elliot in the Morning.
Well,
he agreed. He agreed that it was a clean hit. Iorio gets his shoulder hurt. And then the Rangers broadcast team ends by putting a Tom Wilson meme on the scoreboard. I think the Caps are going to come out fired up. And I think McElrath, not Wilson, is going to look to throw down with Rempe. I had no idea about the history between the two of them. And, everyone's talking if Wilson doesn't throw down with Rempe, he's a vajay.
No, the Caps need him out there. He shouldn't get in a fight.
Exactly. It's a loss. It's a loss for the Caps, even if Wilson cleans Rempe's clock. It's a loss for the Caps if Wilson has to sit for 5 or more minutes. But
Or God forbid he gets suspended for a game. Right?
Rempe gets suspended for a game.
It's like whatever. The Rangers have been there before.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, but you throw a McElrath, who's a fresh call-up in Rempe, and those two go at it, the Caps are just going to be even more fired up. And like, and not to say anything bad about a Caps player, but who cares if McElrath gets suspended?
No, you're right. You're right. You have to balance those things out all the time.
I'll take the Rangers in 5.
Yeah,
I mean, Rangers in 7.
I'm gonna refrain from making a pick, just because you never know in hockey. It's one game, right?
I mean, how much hockey are we talking tonight? Can we like get into like a little bit of like the strategy in that game? Because I saw some things from the Rangers that I don't really see any team do. Granted, like I watch a lot of Caps hockey, so if other teams do this, I mean, the Rangers were playing a 1-3-1 defense, meaning that like you play with a forward and then 3 mids and then 1 designated defenseman, and it countered the Caps like dump and chase and grind it out on the end boards so well. And the speed that the Rangers have to break out with was nuts. I mean, even old man Kreider got a breakaway goal in that game. How nutty was that? I mean, it looked great. It was a great move, great backhand. But the Rangers playing a 1-3-1 with like a strong-sided trap like that, I couldn't believe it. They're so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rangers, I think a lot of it's going to come down to, do the stars show up? Because last year they didn't. Panarin went goalless in their first-round loss last year. He already looks 1,000 times better. Yeah, and Shesterkin. Shesterkin was up and down this year. He even admitted at the All-Star break when he was the All-Star from the team, he was like, I don't feel like an All-Star. I didn't play at an All-Star level, but I'm going to come out in the second half and I'm going to show you why. And his numbers in the second half were phenomenal. And, I mean, there was a time where they thought Jonathan Quick was going to come in and replace Shesterkin because Shesterkin was struggling that bad. And Quick was actually playing fantastic. Quick was phenomenal this whole year. But I think it's going to come down to Shesterkin. Can the stars show up? Can Shesterkin pull some Lundqvist magic out there?
I mean, you guys saw I think we can all agree that come playoff hockey, your third and fourth lines need to be the ones that produce, right? Because the theory is lines 1 and 2 are pretty much going to be even. They'll get theirs from time to time, but they're going to go tit for tat. It's the difference makers are going to be your grinders, your bangers, your bruisers, and can they produce, right? And the first goal of the game for the Rangers came off of Rempe's stick, off a beautiful triangle pass behind the net. I mean, Lindgren, I don't think ever saw the pass that landed on Rempe's stick. So, I mean, the Caps are going to have to clean up and figure out how to really forecheck against this 1-3-1 Rangers team, but it's going to be a good matchup. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Good luck to the Caps.
Yeah. I'm going to move us to a West matchup, and the Winnipeg Jets and, boy, your Colorado Avalanche. Crazy game.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's my Avalanche, but I did.
What are you wearing on your shirt? Joe Sakic.
I'm wearing the Joe Sakic jersey just because I loved that. Like Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Patrick Waugh, Adam Foote, back when I,
Sandis Ozolinsh.
Paid attention to hockey a little bit more.
Milan Hajduk. Throw some.
Milan Hajduk, yeah.
Hajduk.
Alex Tanguay. You want to throw some more in there? But yeah, so the Jets and the Avs. The Jets won 7-6. I think they were up 7-4 in the third period. And this is kind of what you were talking about, boy, is Georgiev going to survive the series? And I think he's going to have to for them. But, the Avs came back, I think scored a goal around a minute or two left to make it 7-6. But a pretty crazy game. I think at one point during the first period, because they scored so much, it was 16 guys had a point combined out there. 16 guys with a goal or an assist in like one period of hockey is nuts. But I wouldn't say, when I was watching that first period with all those goals rattling off the board in like quick succession, it didn't seem like they were like goalie errors, right? It wasn't like, oh, this soft goal came.
Seemed defensive errors.
Defensive errors. The offensive
Yes.
execution was fantastic, but it was defensive errors. So
Yeah, the Avs defensemen. I mean, I'm guessing they wanted to play aggressive the whole night, but they missed on like pinching and keeping that puck in a lot. And there were a lot of odd man because that the first period and a half with like the ice felt like it was tilted. Like I mean, the Avs were. I think the shot differential was like almost 3-1
I mean,
at
the
one
Avs
point.
ended with 46 shots.
Yeah, they were peppering. Was it Hellebuck?
Hellebuck.
Yes.
And
You
but then like you turn around and Winnipeg's got a 2-on-1,
Yeah.
and they did not miss.
No.
I mean, you want to talk about like a goalie that's gonna have to survive. Obviously, like there's no doubting Hellebuck. He's a marquee name for goalies these days. He's probably going to be a Vezina finalist this year, but you could not tell. I don't think anyone that isn't a Winnipeg fan could tell me who his backups are. Just like Gorgiev, like you don't know who the backups are because they're probably some like rookie call-ups from the AHL, right? Because I just looked them up and I couldn't tell you a thing about these guys. But yeah, Hellebuck's going to have to survive. I think that's probably the main reason neither of those goalies got the hook last night. You hate to see your starting goalie go out there, whether it's a win or a loss, get pieced up for 6 and 7 goals. Like, I mean, we all play. I mean, you and I, all three of us have played video games in NHL growing up together. Like, how quickly do we switch goalies
Well,
when
Nick,
we give up 3?
yeah, Nick would have switched to goalie. He would have somehow found
Get
a
him
way
out
to
of here! He sucks.
Yeah, he would have somehow found a way to cut him and like release him to free agency during the game.
Yeah. Agreed.
Bring in the Zamboni drivers. These guys are done. Grab
Rage
some
quit,
pine.
turn it off. We're out of here. Yeah, that sounds about right. Good, going for 7 and 6. But yeah, crazy. The Avs, another thing with them, Nathan McKinnon, if you've never seen Nathan McKinnon play, I don't know why he doesn't get enough buzz. Hockey fans know how much of a superstar he is, but even if you ask a pretty casual hockey fan, hey, name me a couple hockey players, they're probably never going to name him. I mean, he
Even
is
if you
so
could
far
just
down the
say,
list.
like, name me, like, I think up until, was it this season or last season, he was the highest paid hockey player.
Okay,
Like, he had the biggest contract for, I think, a season or two.
he's phenomenal. He is, when you watch any sport and you try to pick out, well, who's the guy, it stands out immediately. Oh, there's the guy. He's on a different level, different speed, different agility, different playmaking, shot releases. It's all different because he's that good. He's insane.
Yes.
I think last night, got his 45th career playoff goal, something stupid. And I don't know if he was able to tack on any more than that, but he's only played in like 80-some or 70-some playoff games. So he's scoring so many goals in such a short frame during the time it matters the most. So if you've never seen Nathan McKinnon, because I mean, even on his own team, Cale Makar gets more buzz, I think, than McKinnon does because he's the best defenseman in the league for
And he's
most
the
people.
cover of NHL 24.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Makar is phenomenal, but dude, Nathan
great.
McKinnon is stupid.
He's so good. He's so much fun to watch.
As the kids say, he's a problem.
He is a problem. He is so much fun to watch. But NHL, this is the same issue that baseball has too. They do a terrible job of marketing their stars. Like I want to watch McKinnon and McDavid play all the time, but I can't find them.
No, it's hard.
I mean, like, and we don't have to get too much into this rabbit hole, but I mean, like, it's a problem with the local networks. I don't know if Colorado ever sorted it out, but they were having a bad stint a year and a half ago where their like network deal expired, and I think they went like a good like 6-7 months where they weren't on TV, and this was during the season. Like I lived in Colorado for a little bit, and I talked to a lot of my friends out there pretty like regularly, and like the frustration that they feel. Like we either have to spend a load of money to go to a game, or we have to listen to it on AM radio, or find some like pirated site on Reddit, because like it's just not on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I
that's a
mean, I
problem.
think the like you said, baseball had that issue with the regional networks, like
They still
essentially
have
going
it.
bankrupt. Yeah, they still have an issue with it. So you're right. It's something baseball and hockey. You want to watch it, and go,
Market your
where
stars.
can I find this? Right?
Mhm.
It's difficult.
You come to
But
an All-Star game and you're like, who are these guys?
yeah, no, I mean,
I,
you brought up McDavid. McDavid's greatest player in the world. I
yeah,
think, as good as McKinnon is, Connor McDavid's better. Maybe
I mean, even
the gap's
Gretzky,
closed. The gap's closed, but
Even Gretzky's like, this guy is just as good. Like, he's one of the best he's ever seen. He's like, just
Would you
wait,
take him
he's gonna
over
do.
Austin Matthews?
Yes,
yeah.
You
You
think?
know,
I don't know. I would think I would take
I
Matthews.
did see a list that had Matthews first, but I'm still taking Connor McDavid.
I take McDavid and
I mean,
then
it's a great
McKinnon.
time to be a hockey fan, that's for sure. And I mean, if you're new to the sport or you're thinking about getting into the sport, it's a great time to pick it up, watching it. Stanley Cup playoff season is upon us. Lord Stanley's Cup will be here before you know it. And there's so much star power in the league. I mean, we could list off great players all night, but
Yeah,
I mean,
that
NHL
sticking
needs to be better.
sticking with the McDavid thing, right? One of the storylines I think for this playoffs is, can McDavid get a cup, right?
No.
Because that's what's going to determine his ultimate legacy between a Mike Trout and a Crosby, right? Like, the difference there is, kind of huge. And McDavid right now is like the Mike Trout of hockey, who we've said for years is the best player. But how often have we seen him? They've had some bad years there, but there should be, you would think, have a chance this year. But it does bring me to my trivia question this week. Connor McDavid this year had 100 assists. He became the fourth player ever to have a 100 assist season. Coincidentally, Nikita Kucherov of the Tampa Bay Lightning also had 100 assists this year, becoming the fifth player ever to have 100 assists. So we literally, of the five players that have ever done it, two of them did it this year. Crazy, right? Do you guys know the other three players that have ever had a 100 assist season?
Wayne Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky.
Well, no, that would count as one player.
But I'm guessing
Wayne Gretzky did it 11 times. Spoiler
Yeah,
alert. I
okay,
think.
there you go.
So
Um,
it's Gretzky, Lemieux, and Crosby.
No, and Mario Lemieux is one of them. But he's
Reggie Leach.
Lemieux and
no, not Reggie Leach.
it's Gretzky, Lemieux,
This player.
Esposito,
No, same team though.
Hull.
No, number 4, Bobby Orr.
Oh, okay.
Number 4, Bobby Orr had a 100 assist.
Did he really?
100 assist season. Yeah, so the 5 people ever done it. Gretzky, again, who did it, I think,
What
What was
11,
going on with him that year?
11 or 12 times. And then you had Mario Lemieux did it once, Bobby Orr did it once, and you've got McDavid and Kucherov did it once this year. So it goes to show, one, how difficult it is, how rare we saw 2 guys do it, but 2, how freaking good Gretzky is. There are so many Gretzky stats that you just sit there and go, this seems made up. Like, this just can't be real. How is it possible that he's that much better than everyone? Well, it's because he was that much better than everyone. Any final playoff stuff before we, or NHL stuff before we move to the NBA?
I'm good.
No, I mean we talked about the Florida Cup, as I'm dubbing it. You know,
I think
that's gonna be a really good series to watch, not just outside, but because like for Florida teams, I think that's just something special to watch, right? Because no one really, I think a lot of people are very quick to write off Florida hockey teams, even though like in recent years they've been some of the most successful. The Florida Panthers have been outstanding at building teams and assembling squads, and the Lightning, obviously their run doesn't really need any more shout outs than it already gets. I mean, what are they, like 3-time cup champions in the last 10
2.
years?
They won 2.
2.
They've gotten to 3 in the last like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a good series to watch, but I will probably forego it to watch Caps Rangers. Go Caps!
I think that one's good one to bring up. Maybe our East Coast bias is showing because the other, like the Canes and Isles and Bruins Leafs, an original 6 matchup, those kind of stand out more to me than the other stuff out west. But yeah, like some good stuff there. yes, Toronto, boo Toronto, or whatever. But it is, the Leafs have basically on every level of their team, they have legit studs. So you would think if they're going to make a run, it's got to be in this window they've got right here, like now. These few years that they've got, it's got to come now. If it doesn't, as a Leafs fan, you got to sit there and go, when's it going to happen? Right?
I think Leafs fans are like the Cowboy fans of hockey. Like every year is their year, but every year they refuse to build a substantial team around Matthews.
But this year they do.
Yeah, but they pull Boston in the first round. I mean, I think Boston's gonna light them up.
Yeah,
I really do.
I could
think
see
it's Boston in 5.
I could see a choke job from Toronto, and Boston being hungrier because of what happened last year, and almost like playing for the guys who retired. Your Bergeron and your Krejci, amazing players, staples of the organization. And that's how you let those guys go out. I think Boston is going to be...
We got to carry their legacy on.
Rabid. And I do think you could see the Leafs bow out
100%.
Early. But if the Leafs, again, the Leafs are going to do it, the time is nigh. They got to get going, right?
Problem is they're Canadian, and Canadian teams don't win cups.
Yeah, what's the last time was the curse of Marty McSorley? Was it around like 92, 93? Is that what it is? Or 91, 92, something like that? It's been that long since a Canadian team has raised the Stanley Cup. All right, that's going to do it for the NHL part. Move on to the NBA part. The playoff matchups got set last week after the play-in series. So you had the number 1 overall seed in the East and in the league, the Boston Celtics. Best record, they taken on Miami. The Knicks at the 2 seed drew the Sixers. Bucks at 3 play Pacers. Cavs at 4 take on the Magic. And then out west, OKC was the 1 seed. They take on the Pelicans after the play-in. The Nuggets drew the Lakers after that play-in. This is a rematch of the Western Conference Finals from last year, and the Nuggets are the defending champions. The upstart T-Wolves got the Suns, the veteran Suns, and then you had the Clippers and Mavs out west. One thing I want to point out, have either of you ever watched Anthony Edwards of the T-Wolves play?
Yes, he is. I've seen the highlights, and he's a walking highlight.
Yes. He is phenomenal.
He's so good. Kevin Garnett is shouting him out.
Yes. I would go so far as to say that he is this generation's Kobe.
I thought you were going to say Vince Carter. You're going Kobe.
No, because here's the thing. The highlights you watch,
that's so bold.
They spotlight his dunks, right? The freakish athleticism he has. But when you watch him play, if you were to watch a whole game, that's not what's going to stand out to you. And I bring the Kobe comparison because when you watch Kobe, he could sit there and you could be playing the best defense on him, and he could say, all right, I'm going to pump fake right now. I'm going to take one dribble to my right, and I'm going to pull up and shoot. He could tell you that. You could go to guard it, and he's going to make it, right? That's how Anthony Edwards is. He'll take shots that you say, that is a contested shot. That's so tough. Why is he taking that? And then boom, consistently in the net because he's saying, I'm so good that you can't play any one-on-one defense on me. I'm going to get to my spot. Very much, Connell, you'll like this comparison. In soccer to Arjen Robben and to hockey to Alexander Ovechkin, where they had very similar move. I'm going to go start here. I'm going to cut back across the middle, and I'm going to shoot, and I'm going to score, and you won't stop it. And that's kind of what Anthony Edwards' game is I'm going to come down, I'm going to take 2 dribbles to the right, cross back over, pull up, and you won't stop it. So the dunks get the attention, right? And his freakish athleticism is amazing. I know I watched something earlier this year. He had a crazy block to win a game where he hit his head on the rim or the backboard, something stupid, right? So
I remember that.
Those get the attention, right? But his all-around offensive game is, in my opinion, very Kobe-esque. So I think he's got a chance to be this generation's Kobe.
How old is he right now?
He's pretty, maybe
young.
25? Maybe.
He has 300 games under his belt or something
maybe
like that.
23, 24, 25. Might even be younger than that.
He's 22.
22, yeah. So he's phenomenal. Wow. He had 33 in the opening win against Phoenix. And I said the veteran Phoenix Suns. You got Durant out there. You got Chris Paul, Devin Booker.
Yeah,
you know what was Kobe-esque? Was him trash talking Durant. I mean, just not afraid. He was giving Durant the business.
So it's funny you
As
bring
he
up
should.
the talk. Have either of you seen the Netflix Adam Sandler basketball
Yes.
movie Hustle?
Yeah. He's the
Anthony
one.
Oh,
Edwards
it's
plays.
so good.
Yeah, he's the villain.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I would call him the villain. He's the heel. The bar or pro wrestling thing. He's
Antagonist.
The
antagonist.
antagonist. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
kind of. He's the other guy. He's the heel in the confrontation, right? But he was fantastic in that movie.
Yes, he was.
Which again, that's a couple years ago. So at the time, the dude's like what 19,
20.
20 filming this. So
I think he just graduated,
Physical.
or not graduated. He just left Georgia to
Yeah.
go to the NBA.
So I mean, he might be the one dude to keep your eye on because, like we just talked about, McKinnon, Anthony Edwards. Yes, because the NBA does a better job marketing their players, more people know him. But he's still. You ask someone to name a basketball player, unless you follow sports and basketball, you will have no idea who this dude is, and he's a problem. Again, like the kids say, he is a problem. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye out for him in that. In Boston's first game, Jason Tatum had a triple-double. They routed the Heat, which was a little shocking to me. Maybe the Heat kind of were gassed and fatigued from the playing games, and Boston was rested. But Boston was the best team in the league. But Miami shows up always in the playoffs. Their Heat culture, it's a real thing. They find a way. A lot of the games were not competitive. This weekend, the two that were the Knicks and Sixers and the OKC and New Orleans. And I think OKC and New Orleans will be to look for is will the youth of OKC hinder them? Yes, the Pelicans are young, but the Pelicans have nothing to lose. OKC, you're the number one seed in the West. You got a lot to lose, and when you got a lot of kids out there without the experience, that can maybe rear its ugly head. And they escaped with a 2-point win, pretty low scoring. I think it was like 94-92. So we'll see if that youth hurts them, but they have another kid in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who's another problem, another dude who is phenomenal, who will definitely get, I think probably going to finish top 3 in MVP voting this year.
I could do a little bit less with the commercial though, with him and Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, that gets
Can we? I think we're done with that commercial.
Yeah, it's been used up. It's been used up. Isn't that a nice thought? When I first saw it, I laughed. But you're right now. It's kind of like, all right, change the channel.
Let's move on. Yeah.
Let's move on. The Knicks Sixers though, couple things from that. Boy, I don't know if you knew this.
Oh my guy,
Dante DiVincenzo.
Oh, I wasn't going there. I was going somewhere else.
The Paisan Dante DiVincenzo from Villanova.
Villanova. Yep.
Did you know he had the third most 3-pointers made this year in the league, behind Doncic and Steph Curry?
Did not
third
know
most
that.
Behind those two dudes. DiVincenzo did. I think in that series, the perimeter shooting from the supporting cast. So you got your two. The people would say the superstars are Jalen Brunson on the Knicks and Joel Embiid on the Sixers. But outside of them, I think what's going to make a couple things will make the difference. The one will be the perimeter shooting from the supporting cast, because the Sixers won that play-in game because the old wily veteran Nick Batum went off for like 6 threes, and that was kind of the difference in their playing game. And I guess that DiVincenzo from 3 has been phenomenal this year, but your other shooters are there like Josh Hart, the other Nova Nick out there. That's going to be a storyline. Boy,
you're missing one guy that dropped 21 in that game.
Miles McBride.
Deuce McBride, my boy, West Virginia.
McBride.
He had 21 in that game?
Yes.
Wow. That is pretty amazing. But the other thing that I was going to say, deuces, about that series, the other matchup is going to be how the bigs of the Knicks guard Embiid. So the Knicks have 2 really, really good defensive bigs in Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson. And in that first game, they were fantastic. Robinson actually outshined Hartenstein, and Hartenstein's getting some consideration for not defensive player of the year, but like all defensive teams, like maybe second team All NBA defensive. But Robinson was awesome and kind of making things uncomfortable for Embiid. Now Embiid, if you watch him, physically looked like he was struggling. His injury is still lingering. He's in pain, but he gutted it out, and he's still phenomenal. So, not making any excuses, but I thought the defense that they played, the interior defense of Hartenstein and Robinson, was fantastic. And I think that might be, that and the perimeter shooting will be the difference. It's not going to be Jalen Brunson going off for 50 in a game. It's going to be the supporting cast, and whose supporting cast can be better. I think the Knicks bench in that game, like aided by your boy Deuce McBride was fantastic. Fantastic.
Hell yeah.
And last thing caught my eye for the NBA was that Nuggets-Lakers series. You know, it's a rematch. You talk about star power. You got it for days with Jokic and Jamal Murray, with the Nuggets. I mean, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter. It's all up and down their team. And then you got with the Lakers, obviously LeBron, Anthony Davis. They're, you know, two of the best. You have D'Angelo Russell out there, the forgotten D'Angelo Russell, who played pretty well. But I think that's going to be an interesting series. I could
see Ohio State.
Yes. I could see the Lakers running out of gas because in that first game, right, LeBron and AD played fantastic, but yet it didn't feel like they were any close to beating the Nugs. And
no, there's a highlight of Anthony Davis and LeBron missing bunnies, and Jokic just taking it and just going. And it's like everyone thought Jokic was going to be the one to be gassed. He looked fine.
Yeah, the Lakers looked kind of gassed. Austin Reeves really didn't do much in that game, and we talk about supporting cast. He's going to have to be great. He's going to have to be great for the Lakers, not just a pretty good player. He's going to have to be great for them out there. So I could very well see this series turning not competitive, just almost like an age thing, like the Lakers kind of running out of gas.
Well, Denver's won 9 straight against them, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think something like that. Jokic is phenomenal. Again, if you haven't watched Jokic play, watch him. It's going to blow your mind because you look at this dude out here. He's not like the guy who stands out to you physically, but then you turn around and somehow he hasn't missed a shot, and he's got 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists in like 15 minutes of game time. You're like, what the hell just happened? How did this just happen? What's going on here? And that's kind of his story. And he, I would think, should win the MVP again this year. He was, I think I saw top 3 in the league in points, rebounds, and assists, each category. Right? It's just stupid, the stuff he's able to do, and the efficiency too. I know we've talked off camera about this frequently, but the efficiency at which he's able to produce, he never turns the ball over, never, and he rarely misses shots. It's remarkable what he's able to do, and he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. So I could see the Nuggets kind of wearing them down, but it's always hard to repeat. It's hard to beat the same team in a series back-to-back years. It's tough. It's a 7-game series, like we said, for the hockey part. Each of these was one game. So, yeah, you get Boston blowing out Miami, something like the Bucks blew out the Pacers. Like it's one game. Doesn't matter. Regroup and move on. But I will say I thought the tones got set pretty big time in the NBA series. Last thing, playoff-wise, before I asked if we missed anything, I don't know if you noticed, but up until the time we've recorded this, every home team has won every game. There has yet to be a road team in the NHL or the NBA steal a game, which that doesn't happen a lot. Yes, it's called home court or home ice advantage for a reason, but still the number of games that were played across both leagues, you'd think one of these teams got to steal one. Nope, every home team has won every game so far. So I thought that's kind of...
Who do you think has the best home advantage? Because last night, watching Winnipeg, that seemed like one of the loudest buildings. It showed up on TV of how loud that building was.
So
the barn, as they call it.
I would probably go with Vegas and the Rangers and the Predators. If I'm looking at these hockey teams.
Do you think the Predators is because of the travel from Vancouver? Because you go...
I think it's
Vancouver's no slouch to their travel. I mean, every year they know they're going to have the worst travel schedule, so I don't really know that it affects them as much. For me, I'd say the Rangers and the Bruins, just because they're old teams and they make those old stadiums sound like they're filled with 300,000 people. Like, did you hear Madison Square Garden last night? It was loud, dude.
Yeah. I mean, the Preds, the other thing with them, when you throw that catfish out on the ice and you have the crazy people smashing the car right as you're walking in, the concerts in between periods, the atmosphere is nuts. So, and they turn out. So that's kind of why I threw them in there. I do agree with MSG. And on the flip side, with the NBA, the Knicks, you have to put them up there. That arena, MSG, again, for that Knicks Sixers game was nuts. It was crazy. Even with a caveman like Jason Bateman down by the court. I don't know if you saw him.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Almost unrecognizable. But I would say, the Knicks, number one there. Boston's got to be up there. And, I mean, probably the Lakers. Lakers, Nugs.
What about Denver?
I said Nugs, Lakers, Nugs. Denver, Denver was rocking pretty good. But, outside of those, you've got some kind of non-traditional teams in the playoffs. The Cavs, the Magic, Pacers, Suns, T-Wolves, OKC, New Orleans. Right, you change things up. You like it. This is why we have drafts. This is why you develop players. This is why we reward, teams and coaches with these playoff opportunities. But I'd probably go with
Winnipeg was something that I was not expecting. That was awesome. Which province are they?
Finally good.
Winnipeg is Manitoba.
Yes.
How many countries are in this country?
The Manitoba Moose is who feed into them. And our local Norfolk Admirals, I believe, are their AA.
Really?
ECHL. I believe so, yeah. The Admirals have changed hands a few times.
For me, I got one more, playoffs, joint playoffs thing, and then I have one NBA thing that we didn't talk about. It's as a hockey fan, I don't watch a lot of NBA. I tend to stick more to hockey. But it's tough this year, man. Every hockey team pretty much has their counterpart basketball team playing. So usually you would get games 1 and 2 in hockey back to back fairly quickly, but this year you got to take time off because they got to switch the rink back over to hardwood, and then you pick it up again. It's tough for me, man. I have a hard time getting with it. But and then the NBA thing that I wanted to talk about. How about Damian Lillard dropping 35 in the first half?
Yeah.
He played 38 minutes and dropped 35 points.
Set the tone.
What the heck was that guy on?
I mean,
how about that?
You talk about hungry. This is a dude who, when's the last time he played a meaningful game, right?
Game time.
The last few years in Portland, they were terrible, right? When's the last time Dame Time got a shot at the biggest stage? So he came out fire and hungry,
It's cool watching him play with Giannis.
Yeah, that was a great offseason move.
Do you think that you don't see more cases of tampering and colluding within basketball organizations to form these super teams because it helps bring eyes and viewers to smaller markets? All of a sudden we're talking about the Thunder and the Suns, and obviously the Bucks have been a point of conversation since Giannis.
No, but some of those were Thunder was a draft, through the draft, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're by no means a small market team, but to hear the OKC Thunder are number 1 in the West. Have we ever said that?
Durant and Harden. Yeah,
Durant, Harden, Westbrook. Yeah.
It's been a while. I think that's kind of the nice thing about the NBA is season to season, it's kind of a crapshoot.
It's because it only takes really 1 to 2 guys to change something. It's one of the few sports where you can really carry a team being 1 or 2 players. No, I don't think any other sport can do that.
Yeah, I agree. But it's funny. The OKC said, well, built through the draft wasn't super team. The flip side, actually, they got those draft picks because they sent Paul George over to the Clippers to make a super team with Kawhi Leonard, and that's how they got Gilgeous-Alexander. He was a Clipper, and Doc Rivers at the time, when that trade was going through, was I don't think you should trade this dude. He's going to be a stud. And they said, well, we want Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard said he's only coming here if he can get Paul George, and so we want Paul George, so we're gonna have to do this. Sorry. And so they sent SGA and a couple other picks, and those picks turned into like all of their supporting cast guys, and also didn't hurt that they weren't good. So they had those other like Chet Holmgren, Josh Giddey picks that they were able to get. So yeah, it's kind of funny that has its, like I said, ebbs and flows, which is a good thing for your sport to have different people, different times, have your fan bases engaged. I love it. Anything else before we move on? Because I got some soccer I'm itching to get to, or football, as they
Soccer.
say. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna
Soccer.
go over across the pond to Europe for our soccer updates. My first one I got here: Manchester United was playing in the FA Cup semifinals against Coventry City. Coventry is a championship team, so they are the second level below the Premier League. And Man U was up 3 goals in the second half, blew the lead completely. Ended full time, tied 3-3 after extra time. They wound up going to penalties, and United was able to advance to the FA Cup final through the penalties, ending Coventry's Cinderella run. I think it'd been since like the late 80s, early 90s since Coventry got that far in the FA Cup. But United's going to play Manchester City. We're going to have a nice Manchester derby for the FA Cup final, which I thought was kind of cool. Going over, sticking with Man City. Still not a good note for them there, but for the UEFA Champions League, the UCL semis, those are set after this week. Real Madrid's going to play Bayern Munich after they defeated City in penalties, and Dortmund's going to play PSG in the semis. So no Premier League sides are in there. Also going to La Liga now in Spain, Jude Bellingham, who, if you haven't watched him play, he's a stud. Bellingham had the late winner for Real Madrid in their El Clasico against Barcelona. I think 3-2 was the final. I think he scored in like the first minute of stoppage time. And that all but clinched La Liga for Madrid. They're up 11 points, I think, on Barca with not that many games left to play. And then the last one that I hit the soccer or football realm came from Italy in the Serie A. Inter Milan clinched the Serie A title today. They another derby, right? A lot of derbies going on here, or derby, as you would say.
AC Milan.
Yeah, Inter beat AC Milan today to clinch Serie A. They're up several, insurmountable. Obviously, that's how they clinched it, but it's kind of cool. They clinched in the derby, and Inter and AC Milan play in the same stadium. So every game that you're playing is a home game, if you want to think of it. So Inter was technically the away side for this game, which is kind of funny, but they were able to clinch that with a victory. Kamlo, anything else I missed from the world of soccer?
Nothing comes to mind, sir. You're doing great.
All right, moving ourselves right along. We're gonna go to baseball. Haven't gotten to baseball yet. Wanted to get to baseball.
Yeah.
I have a couple rapid fire things before I turn it over to the boy, because I know the boy wanted to get into some stuff, but. Yesterday, the Rockies played a doubleheader, but the first game of their doubleheader had a crazy ending. I don't know if you guys saw this, but 0-0 game going to the bottom of the ninth. Catcher Jacob Stallings, who is a defensive catcher, that's all he's out there for, right? Any offense is a plus. Get a hit in a game, and it's the greatest game for them, right? Jacob Stallings gets up with, facing the relief pitcher for the Mariners, and he belts one deep to left center field, and you have a fan interference issue coming into play. They're both the defender and the fan kind of reaching for the ball. It's hard to tell whether the fan reaches over or not. So the ball falls back into play. Stallings goes into second. They ruled a double on the field. Colorado challenges it because they say, well, we think this is a homer. We think we just won. So all right, we'll review it. They're going to go through the review, and then it comes back, and they're like, oh, Colorado, you're right. It was the wrong call. Actually, Jacob Stallings is out. It was fan interference that prevented the fielder from catching it. So no, you don't get a double.
He's
Your
not out.
player's out. And so it went into extras, and the Rockies were able to, in the 10th inning, after they gave up a run in the top of the 10th, they were able to pull it off in the bottom of the 10th on a Ryan McMahon infield single to win 2-1. But I thought that was nuts. I loved the let's challenge it. We think it's a homer, and no, spoiler alert, he's out. I will say, watching it, it's hard to tell. I'm not 100% sold that the fan reached over. It's the angle it's at. It's hard to tell. The fan looks like he's right at it, and I think the ball would have crossed the line. So I don't know. Would have crossed into the stands for a home run. So it's hard. I don't like that they called an out. I think it would have been better to stick with the ruling on the field and you lose your challenge. But I thought that's funny. Hey, by the way, you lose your challenge there. Elsewhere in baseball, Shohei Ohtani, the best player on the planet, he passed former Yankees great Hideki Matsui for the most homers ever by a Japanese player in the majors. Couple more home run things for us here because chicks dig the long ball. Kyle Schwarber from the Phillies.
This was mine.
Our greatest leadoff hitter we've seen in decades. He hit 2 bombs on Wednesday in their 7-6 win over the Rockies, and that was his 250th career home run, which I love. I love how great he is as a leadoff hitter. I don't care that he bats 197. The dude hits 40 bombs, gets on base. He intimidates your pitcher out there, basically. Again, other home run stuff, going back to some catchers with some pop. Travis d'Arnaud of the Braves. On Friday, he had 3 homers, 6 RBI for Atlanta in their 8-6 win over the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers. And the last one I got in there, another reason why I got my Paisan hat on, the University of Florida's Jack Caglione, or what it would be in the old language, Caglianone. He tied an NCAA record by homering in 9 straight games. And these aren't, cheapies that he's just putting over the fence. He is hitting freaking tanks. One of them went 516 feet. And that's not a typo. It went over 500 feet, one of his bombs. And I don't care if he's using an aluminum bat. I don't want to hear that. Doesn't matter. To hit a ball 500 feet is just crazy stupid. So 9 in a row. It came to an end against Vanderbilt over the weekend, but he tied the record in that regard. Boy, anything I missed from baseball?
Well, you took a couple of mine, but Jack Caglianone, as they Americanized it, he is
Caglione, I think, is that they get rid of the whole syllable. Yeah,
okay. Caglione. He is also the Italian-American Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. He is 5-0 on the mound this year with a 3.86 ERA. He, as much as I wanted to shout out JJ Weatherholt a couple weeks ago, this is the other guy that could go number 1 overall. He is ridiculously good. And I think he's like 6'5", 245. He's huge.
He's huge.
Huge. Marcelo Zuna needs to be celebrated at the plate. He is batting .338 with 9 home runs and 27 RBI right now. Last year, this is a guy that is carrying the Braves, and he basically did a similar thing last year. He hit 274 with 40 bombs and 100 RBI. Yeah. I don't think people realize that.
He's a great hitter.
He's a great hitter.
He kind of falls through because, one, he's on the Braves, right? And like you said, last year,
Riley,
Acuna was stupid. Crazy last year, right?
Olsen hit 50.
70.
I think Olsen hit 50.
But also, Acuna went through a stretch there, not in the not-so-distant past, where he was terrible.
Yes,
we thought this guy might be out of the league and done. So I think that's where he kind of gets overlooked, is that sticks for some reason in people's mind. They see, Ozuna's on the Braves. It's just some veteran that they signed because it's a savvy move. And then you look down and you say, holy crap, this dude's carrying them right now. Because Acuna's been terrible so far this year.
Correct. And all right, and then there's one more thing with that Schwarber home run that you were talking about, which I'm surprised you didn't mention this, Nick, because I feel like any time on this show that we get a chance to say this man's name, we should. Adam Dunn. The comp of Kyle Schwarber to Adam Dunn, who I know you love.
I love Adam Dunn.
Is remarkably similar. Schwarber has almost exactly half the at-bats that Adam Dunn has in his career. And he has almost exactly half the hits. And he's a little over half with the home runs and almost exactly half the RBI.
Yeah.
Holy.
And their OPS, Adam Dunn was 854 and Schwarber's at 829.
Yeah,
they're remarkably similar.
I have long maintained that Adam Dunn is extremely underrated. I know a lot of people, baseball metrics-wise, wanted to kind of bury him. But I think when you have someone like that in your lineup, and if you diversify the approaches and the players in your lineup, he gets circled on every scouting report. He might even be the first one the pitching coach circles on that scouting report and says, don't let this guy beat you. Watch out for him. Because if you make a mistake, he's not just going to hit a homer. He's going to embarrass you. He's going to go out of the stadium. right?
And you know what else he does? Kamlo, he does what? He gets on base.
On base.
Gets on
Gets on
base.
You want me to talk?
Yeah, when I point, you talk.
He gets on base.
Yes. No, Adam Dunn, I loved him. I also think what you lose when you try to look at some things with him is at the end of his career when he moved to designated hitter, to be a DH is not an easy thing to do. It takes a huge adjustment in mindset and preparation. And that hurt his career average a lot. If you look before when he was playing regularly in the field in the National League, the dude was batting between 240 and 260 each year.
You could raise that to 240 and about 267.
Yeah. So
I'm looking at his stats right now. He had 1, 2, 3, 4. He had
eight
5.
straight years, I think, with 40 plus homers. Last
5.
time I checked.
5.
You're missing the combined years where he had he got traded, and you're looking at the stat.
No, I've got it. I've got the combined. I've got 46, 40, 40, 40, 40, 38, 38.
Yeah, so he was fantastic, and I think people lose that when talking about him, and I think that gets lost on Schwarber too. He gets played by the same thing of, well, look at his average, and it's like the Phillies need him. The Phillies absolutely need him. The Phillies love him. He's fantastic for their team. Anything else baseball-wise for Kamlo, because he wanted to talk about Talladega. Anything else, boy?
I have some baseball stuff too.
I was just going to quickly go with Skeens in AAA dominating. I feel like his debut when it comes, because it's going to happen shortly, is going to be similar to Strasburg as far as the hype going into that highly anticipated debut. That was my last thing.
I like it. Kamla?
Yeah, just real quick for me. I mean, you talk about highly anticipated debuts. There was none, I think, more anticipated than Jackson Holliday. He has struggled. Through 9 games, he's about to. For those of you that don't know, we're recording on Monday the 22nd, so he's about to have his 10th game tonight. Through 9 games, he's had 30 at bats. He's batting .033 on base percentage, .094. He has a negative WAR. I think it's time to give him the Colton Cowser treatment. I think he needs to get sent back down to Baltimore's AAA Norfolk.
Norfolk.
Norfolk. The Tides. Because I think it was last season, Colton Cowser threw about 70 games, albeit this is a much smaller sample size for Holiday. Through 70 games last season, Cowser struggled, and Baltimore sent him back down to the Tides, and look where he's at now.
Just mashing.
I mean,
he's just mashing it.
Yeah, the dude, he's mashing it, Snail. He's the guy can't be stopped. I mean, he looks phenomenal. I mean, the Orioles, I think, won 5-0 against the Royals yesterday, and Cowser and Westberg both hit back-to-back home runs. I think it's time to send this kid back down to the Tides, that kid being Holiday. Let him get his confidence back. Let him keep making those adjustments. Let him dominate in AAA, and then bring him up later.
Well, he was dominating AAA.
Yeah,
It's a matter of time.
Let him go back and keep doing that. Obviously, like I said, I recognize that this is a much smaller sample size, but I think it might just be too much too quick for the young man.
I think you got to give in baseball. We get caught up in, like you said, small sample sizes and short term. You got to give him at least a month before you reevaluate, because it's so hard. Baseball's such a difficult game.
Yeah, he needs
to come up and just tear the world apart.
I'm not disagreeing that it's a hard sport and that it takes a lot, but then consider this me calling my shot, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna check in with you on May 21st, and we'll see if we have the same conversation.
Yeah, he needs to get close to 100 at bats in the show, and then make a decision. Right, because right now your Orioles are still playing well.
I mean, the AL East is a tough division this year. First division to get all teams above 10 wins.
Yep.
Yeah, and, I think he's going to be okay. I think you just need to give it close to 100 at bats and then make a decision.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, like I'm not.
It's 20 years old, right?
I'm not like crapping on the kid, and I'm not saying he can't make it because I have full faith in him. Right? I trust the process. I trust the Orioles organization, even though they've betrayed me so much. But I trust the decisions they make. But I think that this is going to be one of those instances where he needs to go back, get a little more experience, and then come back.
I don't think you have to make that decision yet. I think you can wait your month
Yeah.
again, and
Yeah.
then do it. If he's still really struggling, then do it. If he shows signs of life, I think he'll be fine because of his pedigree. Basically, is
Yeah.
kind of where he feels different than any other guy because of that.
Well, but that's the other thing too. Is like, I've granted like he was obviously much more anticipated, but I think we've had so many guys in the last year. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Heston Kjerstad,
Jordan Westberg. Make sure you get him in there
Jordan
because he's
Westberg,
raking.
Jordan Westberg, Colton Cowser, and then you have breakout guys who are a little older like Santander. I mean, there's no shortage of names, so I mean, like, why rush?
Well,
You know
I
what
think
mean?
just to have the last thing here, I think the one pro to even just let him stay up the whole year is that he doesn't have to be the guy. He ain't Bobby Witt, where Bobby Witt's got to be the dude, right?
True.
He doesn't have to be the guy. He can sit there. You
That's
can
true.
give him days off, right? So you can let him learn. And yeah, you'd have to have the conversation of, do we think he'll learn better by watching these guys and getting this major league reps, or will he learn
a good
better
point.
in Norfolk? But last thing baseball-wise before we move on to Talladega real quick, give a shout-out to the Cleveland Guardians. At this time, they have the best record in the majors, and it's a team much maligned for their lack of offense. They've been doing pretty darn well, especially after their ace Shane Bieber goes down for the year. So give a shout-out to the Guardians. Now, Talladega. Yesterday, crazy wild finish. If you saw it, it was nuts. Right, you had, I believe it was Michael McDowell and Brad Keselowski dueling it out at the end of the last lap, and you got guys swerving down the track to block people, and the big one happens, and it's massive right at the front with the leaders, and Tyler Reddick coming up around the outside somehow squeaks past all this and just blows by everyone right at the end for the finish. It's a crazy finish to capture the win, and I loved because he races for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's team, and I love the shot of Michael Jordan carrying Reddick's young son to him on victory lane. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Anything else with that, Kamlo? I knew we wanted to get that shout out in there.
Yeah, I wanted to get the Jordan shout out in there because Jordan is, and a lot of people for some reason don't know this, I guess because it's probably NASCAR, but Jordan is like a NASCAR fiend because his dad was big into NASCAR. His team, him and Danny Hamlin's team, has had 5 wins prior, and Jordan shows up to a lot of NASCAR events. He was at Richmond last year when we were there. This was the first win Jordan was present for, so I thought that was really cool, and it was awesome to see him with Tyler Reddick's son. I really enjoyed that. The highlights from that race are wild.
Yes.
If you haven't seen them, go look them up.
Crazy. Always crazy in Talladega. The restrictor plate and all that stuff going on.
Woo!
All right, that's going to bring us to our final segment and our favorites. Right, this week our favorites. I asked them to come up with your favorite hockey goalies ever. Right, I made a top 10 list just to have it easy. But I asked.
I mean, you got to cut it down here. Come on.
No, these guys all. I'm going to rip through it right now.
That's so many.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, go.
Top 10. These guys all deserve to mention, and so I threw it in there. 10. I cut it down. Rap
Nick.
bastards. So.
Let it rip, Tater Chip.
Number 10, I had Ole the goalie, Olaf Kolzig. Got to give him a shout out. Number 9, Jim Craig from the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team. Number 8, Ray Emery, the incomparable Ray Emery, the feisty Ray Emery, who could throw down. If you got in a fight, you want Ray Emery as your goalie. The late great Ray Emery, yeah. Number 7, Nikolai Hobby-Bulin.
I knew you were going to have that one.
The Bulin Wall. Number 6, Mike Richter, the American goalie. I think at the time of retirement, he had the most wins ever of any American goalie for the Rangers when they won their last cup. Number 5, Sergei Bobrovsky. If you've never seen the YouTube clip of Jay Onrait and Dan O'Toole, Bobrovsky, you're a disgrace to the force. Number 4, Ryan Miller, who had that incredible run for Team USA and was just dominant for the Sabres and later went on to the Canucks. Number 3, Dominik Hasek, who redefined the position, made athleticism a premium. His saves, it was like, technique be damned. I'm going to save everything and I'm going to do it as best I can. And he was all over the place. He made being goalie cool. Number 2, Patrick Waugh, of course. And number 1, Henrik Lundqvist, which I've got my number 30 sweater on. King Henrik Hank carried the Rangers for almost 2 decades. And a lot of teams that really were not any good, they were good because of him. He stood on his head all the time. And I would say for that generation, that span, he was the best goalie in the league and in the world. Boy?
Sure, I'll go. You got a few of mine. Actually, almost all of them. The one difference I had was Curtis Joseph, Cujo. One of my favorite nicknames, Cujo. He is also 7th in all-time wins.
Pretty amazing.
I have Patrick Waugh. Like watching him growing up was awesome. He was also a nasty dude. He was another fighter.
Speaks for itself.
Yeah. Henrik Lundqvist, the king, that handsome son of a bitch. I always love to turn in, just checking stat lines of the Ranger games and just seeing how many saves he had and just seeing him carry everyone. Dominik Hasek was a highlight reel every night. He also has a better goals against in his career than Marty Brodeur.
I believe that. He played on some bad teams, so that.
And then I had Ryan Miller for his contributions to Team USA 10 years ago.
It's a good one.
Yep, that's all I got.
All right. I'm going to go... I ranked mine. I'm going to go 5 to 1, and then I'm going to hit you with an honorable mention. Coming into the 5 slot, I have Henrik Lundqvist, the most handsome man to ever do it. Absolute legend. Down the stretch, you saw a couple holes come through his high glove side. I think we all remember those glitches in the NHL games.
Yep.
It was one of the only ways you could score on him down the stretch there, but he was great. Always wanted to see him in a Caps jersey, but he had the heart issues. I'm looking forward to his documentary coming out that he has. I can't remember what platform it's going to be on, but it's going to be a must-watch for me. Number 4, going to shout it out to Bobby Lou, Roberto Luongo. He was just an absolute demon between the pipes for the Canucks for the longest time, and then when he went on the road, you saw him in New Jersey, and then I believe you saw him at the Florida Panthers as well. He was just, after he got out of Vancouver, I think he kind of lightened up a little bit. You kind of saw him take to Twitter when he was in the goalie war with Corey Schneider in Jersey. He had some really hilarious antics in Florida while he was there. Roberto Luongo, he's one of the most, I think he's in the top 5 for most games played as a goalie. Great guy, love him. Number 3, Patrick Waugh, like I said, the name speaks for itself. That's a guy that would throw down with the boys. He was in that nice era where you could have line brawls and bench clearing brawls and the goalies would get involved, so I love a good goalie, Donnybrook. Number 2, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 4-time Vezina winner, 2 gold medals, 1,266 games, and only 397 losses. Shout it out to the Iron Man, Martin Brodeur. Most games played by a goalie. The guy was just an absolute staple, and when you think of Brodeur, you think legacy, you think legend, and you think adaptability. This was a guy who played through so many different eras of hockey, and he stayed relevant during all of them. I mean, I think everyone kind of had the Devils circled because they knew it was going to be a night when they weren't going to score a whole lot. Brodeur was a legend. And then number 1, we're going to shout out the Stanley Cup champion, the Holt Beast, Braden Holtby, the goalie for the Washington Capitals when Capitals brought home the cup. Love you, Braden. Shout out Braden Holtby. Go Caps. And then my honorable mention was a Mr. Ray Emery. The late, great Ray Emery. Nick, you said it best. I mean, it was awesome to watch that guy play. how many times in newspaper class, Nick, were we looking up the fight Ray Emery got in last night? We kept track of him, right? We followed him wherever he went.
Yeah.
We were always looking at the teams he was playing for. The energy and the passion that he brought to the team, not only being an African American goalie, but being a goalie who constantly was the bruiser and the enforcer for his team too. It was something special to watch. So I got to shout out Ray Emery. That's my list. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yep. I like it. Good stuff. I love that we're going to end on a Ray Emery note, the late, great Ray Emery. Anything we missed before we say goodnight to everyone?
Let's call it a night there, big fella.
All right, pitter patter. That's going to do it for us here at What Caught My Eye, or WCME. Don't forget, follow us on our Insta and X at WCME_sports. Listen to us on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube. Check out our new website, WCMEsports.com, for updates. You can always subscribe on any of our platforms for news alerts. And look out for us. As we say each week, be decent to each other. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.